Hello and welcome. Lisa Marie Grantham here, founder of GoddessLifestylePlan.com. And today I am talking with a private client of mine and a dear soul sister friend of mine. And I just can't wait to share her brilliance and wisdom with you. Her name is Dina Tibbs, and she's known as the Amused Woman. And her work, her title is a spiritual mentor and muse. And I have to say that every time we have a session, I not only enjoy it thoroughly, but I learned something from her. She's so rich in wisdom. And today we are talking about why ignoring your divine gifts is a bad idea. It's something that most spiritual entrepreneurs do because things come very easy to us, these divine gifts. So we kind of poo-poo them as they're not valid or important. So let's dive in. Dina, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm very honored and I have so much fun with you. So I can't wait to get into this conversation.
Yes, it's a juicy conversation, one that we've had many, many times over the last year or more that we've been working together. So let's start off with tell us what you do and basically who you work with. Who is your ideal client?
Oh, I love working with women who have been following a spiritual path for some time, but really want to weave that into every moment and every aspect of their lives. So they just want to take it deeper. They want to remember who they are at the most deep soul level, but they want to do it through honoring their gifts, having fun, creating, because we're all creators. So I bring in a lot of creative and contemplative practices, and really as a way to, rather than have some separate spiritual practice, that practice gets woven in and all aspects of life are treated as sacred, and that you are letting the soul, your soul, along with some wisdom, just really guide your entire life. Your life is and businesses are designed by your soul if you allow them to be.
Yeah, yeah, so beautiful. I agree. I agree. So you help your ideal client really get clarity on their soul's gifts, their soul's purpose here, earthside. If I'm hearing correctly.
Yes, my one of my geniuses is really taking that mystical, magical information and grounding it in, as you say, earthside. I love that. I've never used that term. Now I'm gonna steal it. But yeah, to bring it in, that's my weaving of the masculine and feminine, to bring things into form, to take that information that's coming from your own intuition and from the divine and saying, okay, now this is what my life is going to be designed like, based on non-negotiable trust in this information. I work a lot with trust and sovereignty as well.
Yes, 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 yes. Um, we've talked about this many times over the course of our friendship and our working relationship, but feminine gifts, I have them, you have them, our clients have them, but there seems to be this common thread that I've found, and I'm sure you have too, where it's kind of poo-pooed away like, oh, my intuitiveness, that's no big deal. Or my ability to hold space, that's no big deal. Why do you think that is? What's going on?
Well, this could be a huge, long, patriarchal story, but to take it, take my Library of Alexandria that lives in my head out. The ancient Greeks started moving towards gnosis, towards knowing, and initially it really was that divine intuitive knowing combined with
Mm.
um, teachings and knowledge and logical mind stuff. And over time, it moved towards just the logical, and it moved away from being connected in the universe to all beings,
Yeah.
to the human kind of being elevated, and we control everything else in nature and in the world and on the planet. And certainly in more modern history, of course, our schools, our education systems, certainly our corporate work environments, if you can't prove it,
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
doesn't exist,
Right.
or it has no value. Or even the soft skills, in leadership, because I was in corporate leadership, we don't we don't measure or give praise or raises based on somebody's ability, like you said, to use the language of holding space. Although yet in the corporate world, as I look back on the gifts that I know were divine, they were present with me in the corporate world, and they were present with me in the healing arts, and now they're present with me in spiritual mentorship. But nobody ever gave me a raise on my ability to hold space for my team.
Right.
And that's exactly what I was doing.
Yeah. But I think we all do, when we are working with a team, when we are leading with heart, with soul.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, there seems to be this like rah rah for the masculine, right? Those masculine aligned traits or gifts. And then the feminine kind of gifts are just, oh, and I think because of the culture and the way that the women have gone into the workforce in the last 100 years, it's like, well, if we have to be in a man's world, I guess we have to act or
Mhm.
behave or operate in that masculine all the time. And I agree that it has to be there. You and I both really resonate with our masculine sides, like our masculine tendencies. I know I wear it like a badge of honor. I love how masculine I can be because it's the part of me that gets shit done. It's the
Right.
part of me that has goals and ambition and reaches for them and takes aligned action towards them. I'm direct. I'm very direct. And the
Yeah.
feminine is more flowy. And but what about, do you think the tides are changing, I guess? Do you see that the feminine is becoming more and more embraced and enjoyed in the marketplace?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do. And what in the wisdom teachings that I've received over the years, whether it's masculine or feminine, either one, and then there's sort of that convergence and that marriage of the two. There's the sacred parts of both of those energies, and then there's the distorted part of both of those energies.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that the masculine is bad. What's happened is it's become distorted.
Yes.
And what, and this, of course, as you know, doesn't, and most of your audience, this is, we're not talking gender, but male identified folks are starting to, of course, also feel that missing link of this feminine aspect of flow. And I've met, actually, believe it or not, I've met more men in the last year that probably have a real deep sense and touch, and even how they emanate out in the world with those more flowing, like
Yes.
just let stuff go
Yes.
sides than many of the women, because we, like you said, in the 100 years we had to overcompensate.
Yes. Yes.
you know there's the black widows that are in the corporate world. I've worked with, my husband's worked with, there's stories there, there's sisterhood stories there, but it's a result of having to feel like they needed to overcompensate. And even in the entrepreneurship, soulful or otherwise world, and I see it every day because I network with women who are in all sorts of businesses, not just intuitive or soul-led businesses. I mean, they're, like I said, I believe they're all soul-led, but um, productive, we're in a culture of produce, and if you're not seen as producing all the time or checking off the to-do list, it's like we wear overwhelm and overcommitment as a badge of honor.
Yes. Oh, I
And
do.
yeah, exactly. And so I do think the tides are turning for no other reason, maybe because a lot of these wisdom teachings are going mainstream, but other than that, for no other reason, is we're exhausted. And especially in this last year. And I think many women, regardless of their background, regardless of whether their sacred work is a mother, if they have a business, if they're in corporate, or all of the above,
Yeah.
is just like, we have to do things differently.
That's right.
I mean, we see the brokenness all through the collective, and
Yes.
it's a result of this distorted competition, production, all of the masculine, distorted masculine stuff. Masculine in its highest expression, like you said, is aligned.
Yes.
It's, and as a protector. So, in the ancient stories, the men were there to protect the women while they did actually the council work for the tribe. They were making most of the decisions.
Yes. Yes. Beautiful when we go back to the ancient wisdom and we look at where we really have come from, all of us. Everything comes from pagan roots. Let's just call what it is. Everything came from those roots. Um, Divine feminine gifts and divine gifts, what I've noticed in my clients and also myself, it's like when something comes so easy to us, we almost discredit it as not valuable. However, holding space, um, having intuitive hits about a client or someone in your life. Can you think of other divine gifts that are usually poo-pooed as no big deal, like minimized, when they really should be celebrated?
Right. One of the biggest ones, and I was just talking about it again with a male, um, listening,
Yes.
huge, and not necessarily one of my divine. um, because my mouth just goes faster, But one of mine, I think that what begins to happen is because then there's the opposite. We realize it's a gift, but we get frustrated with others because we don't realize they also cannot do the same thing. And that used to get me in trouble in the corporate world, right? So for me, it's that ability to see the pattern and
Yes.
the puzzle,
Yes.
and then also deal with all the pieces.
Yes.
And so I know a lot of women have this very visionary gift, but if they don't have that other aspect, so or a wisdom teacher that helps them with the other part of the bringing it into form, it's also they're um they in many cases maybe have been told it's not a gift. You live up in the sky, all the distortions that
Yes.
come around being a visionary. It's like, come back down to earth. You're
Yes.
so airy fairy, if you want to go elemental.
Yeah.
And yet air is visionary.
Expansive.
It's expansive. It's ideas.
Yes.
It's clarity.
Communication.
It's
Communication.
communication. So, I've turned recently, because I'm an earth sign, very fiery. But this year for me is really embracing. I also have a trine in air signs. So, so I'm really embracing this air part of me because they are memory for me,
Yeah.
having a memory like an elephant. And it just recently, I had a synchronicity as I was looking at some things around grace and remembrance, and remembering is one of those gifts. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I have a library that lives in my head and I remember it all.
That's a gift. That's a gift. Yeah, that's
But you don't think about it as one because
no,
it doesn't,
because
what,
it's there all the time. It's always been there. What I heard you say was, and how I took it is, and I have a gift also. I see patterns right away, whether they're speech patterns, something my client says over and over again, or someone I'm that's in my life, they'll say they have the same behavior, same things they're saying over and over, and I'm able to see those patterns like that. I didn't realize that that was a gift. It's a gift. That's one of the reasons why I'm so effective. And with you, with the patterns as well, it makes us very effective as at distilling down what really is the fuck going on, and then helping your client move forward, because it's like it takes me just a couple of, I'm like, whoop, there it is. And I notice. It's a divine gift,
It
really, to
is.
be able to notice and then identify that's a pattern. That's a pattern of which element, where is it coming in? And then how can we work around it? It makes you a very effective mentor, in my opinion. So that's amazing. The world needs all of our gifts. Let's just kind of umbrella it under that. I mean, when I think about all of, and because I work primarily with women and spiritual entrepreneurial women, um it pains me to see so many of them discrediting their gifts, because I just think about the world we could be living in
Mm-hmm.
if those feminine gifts were out there in a bigger, brighter way. I think that's what fuels me to do what I do every day. Get up when things are not going well in my business, when things are not going well in my life. It's like this desire to serve and help turn up the volume on those divine gifts as much as I possibly humanly can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I mean, I think part of that is that both of our, as Virgo, that is being in service to the sacred and wanting to see, like you said, it literally
Pains me.
pains my energy body
Yes. Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
see, somebody just not fully stepping in. And it doesn't always mean being as visible as you and I like to be. That's probably more of our masculine side. And one gift that I is creating spaces of beauty. That's another one I see a lot of women have and don't honor that,
Yes,
and
and
comfort.
yes, beautiful. That's such a great point too. And Virgo also is the archetype of the high priestess as well.
Yes,
So I mean, it's we've got it in spades all over. When we're together, it's like buzzing away. I
right.
love it. I love it. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge your art behind you.
Oh,
Art,
yeah.
using art, it's beautiful. And I've had the pleasure of seeing many of your paintings in various stages of being done and working on them. Art, you use art as a tool. Is that correct in your work?
I do. I use lots of different tools, and but art, it's one of those. It's so multifaceted in the sense that it has nothing to do with the final product. It's all about the process. In certain spiritual traditions, even on the Christian mystic side, creation spirituality is really all about this everything we do is a creation, and it doesn't have to be painting. It could be cooking. It could be whatever your creative thing is,
Yeah.
but it's a way to talking about stepping out of the logical and into the intuitive heart soul led space. Creative practice is, for me personally, because I am a mover, um, much more aligned than perhaps just sitting on a cushion and trying to clear it all out.
Yeah.
So I will often, with my clients or in my own practice, say, okay, what are we musing on? What are we looking to transform? What's the story? What are we working with? And start there, and either set an intention or write down what it is. And I usually use certain mediums on the first layer of an art piece, to ask the question, the inquiry. I love inquiry. And then we go into whatever the art process is. And there under that layer is that inquiry. And I usually ask my clients, like, don't even think about the inquiry, just get it down. And then as you're working, just slow, pay attention. And usually, whether you're conscious of it or you're not, by the end of the session, the end of creating the piece, whatever it is, you've got answers.
Yeah.
And they're coming, and this works for business too. I teach a very creative, visionary business process. This is like the logical is great. That's the masculine, but it shouldn't be in the driver's seat.
All the time.
Your heart, your soul, your womb, whatever, your intuitive spaces,
Yes.
you take the ideas and you muse upon them in that space first. And then when you say, oh yeah, I feel this one in my body, like I'm either going to transform this or I'm going to move forward with this, or whatever it is, then say, okay, logical mind, now you're going to be of service to my heart, and let's start bringing this into form. And then we can use even creative practice to vision out a vision board, or
Oh, I love
the actual steps.
that. I love
So I
that.
love both, but it has to be like, don't do all the things. Like later on today, I'm talking about what seeds are the ones that you're going to really put your time and life force and perhaps even financial focus onto. Because in a garden, I use garden metaphors all the time, and you do too. If we plant a million seeds and they start to sprout, you have to thin them,
Yeah,
or you wind up with a bunch of spindly plants that don't produce anything.
that's right.
But if you pull, if you only leave the strongest plant, it grows into a beautiful, potent, fruit bearing plant.
Yeah.
And so, to really be in discernment, to not do all the things, because the opposite of not honoring your gifts, or the shadow side of that is, doing a whole bunch of things that are not yours to do.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're not honoring your gifts, and they don't come easy. And, it's not to say we don't want to go learn or do hard things, or take us to our edges.
But we
But
want to stay in our brilliance.
right, in our genius, and the original word of genius, which, by the way, in ancient Greek etymology, is that which you're divinely given. Has nothing to do with intellect or being a Mensa genius or being able to, get 1,500 on the SATs, or
A
any of that stuff.
genius. A Mensa genius. You crack me up. That's awesome. Yes, it's true. I do believe I'm constantly having to help many of my clients stay in their zone of genius, their brilliance, so that they're not expending energy where it's not serving. It's not serving. It's actually depleting. So I
Right.
love it. Yes, I agree 100%. What is something you would say or advise to your early entrepreneur self?
Mm. So many things. But I think, along these lines for sure is, first of all, do a business plan. I know that's super lefty, brainy, but I actually do a right brain based one, but which I did because I came out of the corporate world. But when you look at those gifts, when you look at what's in your zone of genius, you also look at what isn't. And in your business plan, you say, as soon as I make X amount, the first support structure I'm going to hire is that thing that's not in my genius. Like for me, it was bookkeeping. Cannot stand it. Um, I would have the tax people knocking down my door if I didn't outsource that one, like
Yeah.
right off the bat. So make sure you budget for it. You may not have the budget right away, but put it there and know that that's like you just pleading your energy and not being in your genius by doing some of those tasks and things. And it's I will always go back to maintaining relationships and connections is the most powerful marketing you will ever do, regardless of what tools and things are out there in the world to do that. Those are tools,
Yeah.
just like Oracle cards are tools for my intuition. They are not the intuition. Same thing with the tools for marketing. They're just a way to be in relationship and be in community. And I prefer, when possible, in person as well, because that's very important to me. But um, when you put information out there, if you feel like you're hearing crickets, don't let that stop you,
Mm.
because I have had people that I didn't know were reading my words for better than some 15 years, some of them almost 20, maybe never made a peep. And then suddenly something I said resonated, it touched them, it moved them, or they were in a different place in their lives to hear the seed in a different way. And then they're reaching out to me, wanting to work with me in some way, shape, or form. So
So
don't give up. Just share from the heart, share from your zone of genius, and keep on keeping on. That's the masculine side.
yes, so good, so good. Such a very truth for me too. Love that so much. How can the watchers, the listeners find you? How can we find you, Dina?
The easiest way to find me, of course, is through my website and www.amusedwomanstudios.com. You can sign up for my newsletter there. That's the best way to reach me. Every week, I write a wisdom teaching through the newsletter, and then usually share, because then I share more deeply each week. On that writing, I will go live in my group. So usually you'll end up with a private group invitation through my newsletter, and that's completely whether it's in your joy to join or not. But I go deeper each week with what I write on Sundays. On Wednesdays, after I get off here, that deeper level teaching will happen in my group. So that is the best way. Just come in through the website, and you'll find me in all the places and spaces.
Awesome. The link to Dina's website will be below this video, so you can find her easily. We don't want you to have to remember that URL. Any last final thoughts you'd like to share?
Let me sit with this for a moment. Well, I think you touched on it before, but I think, yeah, what I do and what you do is in service really to all of the collective and all of humanity. And if it's cliche, but that old saying of be the change you want to see in the world. There's so much truth in that, and that's through our gifts.
Yes.
How you show up in the world is different than I show up in the world. Um, and that's another gift too, being able to see that and put together different um, belief systems in a non-judgmental way, and be fearless. I know it's hard sometimes, but um, be fearless in your gift sharing. Be generous in your gift sharing, whatever that means to you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for hanging out with me and doing this and
So
just
much fun.
sharing all of what you do with the world, with my community. And I just couldn't be more thrilled to have you in my life and have you in my circle. So there's more to come. So everybody, thanks for joining for this interview. And there's more coming down the turnpike because truth be told, I just love spreading amazing work in the world, especially with my soul sisters and these amazing women that are doing up to great things. I just want to make sure that I'm doing my part to make sure you get to know them, meet them, see them, maybe even work with them down the road as well. So we'll see you next time. Thanks, Dina.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It was my pleasure always, of course. All right. See you next time.
Bye bye.